Hey everyone. So this is Scout, and I asked her if she would help me teach this lesson to you, but you can see she's not behaving. I brought her chicken. I thought she'd like the chicken. She's a little nice with the chicken. Oh no, see, she won't help. So she's like you. She wants to go play instead of studying for exams. Come on, Scout. We need to study for exams. Say hi to my students. That's no. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, here we are. So today I can't be in class because I have a meeting at UCC that I have to be at, unfortunately. Oh, she's calmed down a little bit. That's good. Good job, Scout. Uh, so you need to do some more exam review on your own. Don't worry, we will take up the Moth and the Star next class for sure. I'm sure you're all finished that work. The first thing I want you to do is make sure you feel really solid about your answers to the Moth and the Star. Yeah, okay, you can go. Bye, Scout. She's sometimes nice. She's also, as you all know, she once ripped an earring out of my fiance's ear while she slept. So Scout's moody. Okay. Make sure your answers to the Moth and the Star are solid. So the way to do that is if you just go to your exam review guide and look at the exam format page, here it details what your answers should look like, right? So they're point example explanation. But at this point, late in grade 8, you should feel like you might need more than one example to prove your point. You might need a longer explanation to explain your examples. Use those opportunities. Okay, make sure that you're detailed and thorough. You don't want to uh, have shallow, incomplete analysis. So you might feel like you have more than one example that will prove something about the story. If you were saying that a character is brave, there should be more than one example of that character being brave, right? Otherwise, how brave really are there? Or you might have this really interesting quotation. You're like, a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. Well, you might need to explain that in a number of different ways. So then expand your explanation. Make sure that you're really showing me everything that you can about what you understand about Romeo and Juliet. Okay, and the same thing goes for the long answer. So make sure that you've looked over your Moth and the Star answers and you feel like they're solid. But if you've already done that, which many of you probably have, uh, this class I want you to think about theme. You know there's going to be a question on the exam, the long answer question, that asks you to think about the theme of the short story on the exam and think about the theme of Romeo and Juliet and compare them. And just like the assessment last week, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than just like, what does the story teach us about family or what does it teach us about love? There's going to be something specific that you have to think about. So you don't want to go into the exam feeling like you don't know what's coming. You should go in there feeling like you really understand these stories or this story and its messages. So that's what I want you to do today. I want you to brainstorm theme. We've got 3 big themes here, family, love, and fate, to get you started. You should be able to think of a couple more as well. There are more big themes in this story. And for each one, I want you to write at least one or multiple statements, messages that the play brings forward. Okay, these should be full sentences. It's not enough to say the theme is love. You need to tell us what the play teaches us about love. Let me show you some examples. Okay, you could start out at a fairly basic level. Scout, you back? Are you coming? No, Scout's still not interested in studying for exams. She wants to look out the window. That's cool. So you could say love exists. Let's even be nicer. Let's say true love exists. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, you're right. I think the play shows that. But can we get deeper? Well, what is true love? Maybe the play tries to tell us what true love really is. And we thought a lot about it last week on the assessment about how love and suffering are linked, right? Mr. Labriola and I asked you to think about how love and suffering are connected. So maybe there's something we can say about that. So what did I write down here? I left myself some preparation. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, here's an idea of what true love could mean. That's nice. A little bit of a better answer. So maybe we say something like this. True love means willingness to sacrifice everything for someone else, including one's own life. That's really nice. Uh, and doesn't the play show us that? Romeo and Juliet, how do we know they're really in love? Because they're willing to give up everything for one another. Juliet, especially, uh, we see her give up. her parents' love. She pushes the nurse away. She takes these huge risks. She's willing to pretend to be dead and then leave her family and society forever just to be with Romeo. And then eventually she takes her own life because she doesn't want to live without him. And Romeo's the same way, right? Romeo feels that if he can't be with Juliet, then life is not worth living. So maybe this play is teaching us that true love means sacrifice. That's one way you could say that love and suffering are connected, because to really love someone, you have to be willing to suffer for them, right? That's a really interesting idea, isn't it? Because love is supposed to be joy, right? It's supposed to be like the thing that gives people the most spiritual pleasure, the best thing for the soul. But this play seems to say that, okay, that's true, but actually, you can only really love someone if you're also willing to suffer for them. That love means pain. So that's fairly deep, isn't it? And what else did I write down here? Oh yeah, there's also in this play, I think you could say that the play is all about how powerful love is. Love is an extremely dangerous, powerful force. And what did I write? Yeah, that is as capable of causing suffering as it is of causing joy. So there's love and suffering again. But that's true, right? Love is more than just happiness. Love is pain. Love will drive us to do the craziest, most wild things. Love leads to chaos. Love takes stable order. Like the Montagues have always hated the Capulets, and the Montagues stick together, and the Capulets stick together, and that's the way it always has to be. But love says, no, everything's going to change now. Everything's going to change. And in the end, it's better, but for a while, it's worse. This play is about the power of love. Okay, so there are some sentences. That's pretty good for love. So what else can you do? You could look at fate and you'll be like, okay, the play says fate exists. It's true. In the play, there's fate. They're star-crossed lovers. They're never going to be together. We learn that in the prologue. My computer is like covered in cat hair right now, folks. I think it's going to stop working soon. Oh my God. This is crazy. She really wanted to get away from me. Anyway, in the play, fate exists. And we see that that's true. But what can we learn about fate? What is destiny? How do we interact with destiny, with fate? What can we learn from the play about what it means to be fated to do something? What can we learn from the play about what it means for something to be fatal? You need to think about that. What does the play teach us about that? Take a look at family. Take a look at a couple of other themes. And the more sentences that you can write that you think are true about these big topics, the better prepared you'll be for the exam. Okay, so spend some time on that. If you get that all done, you feel like you've brainstormed everything that you possibly can, and you've answered the Moth and the Star, and you think all your answers to the Moth and the Star are amazing. You're thinking, oh, I'm so amazing. Then go on and do the next AFL on the hockey sweater. And if you've already done that because you're like, oh, I love English and all I want to do is practice exams, then there's another one in OneNote on a story called The Chaser, and you can answer that. And if you're all done that, you're like, oh my God, this is so great. Then you should just, read Romeo and Juliet again and act it out, wear a bunch of costumes. Maybe if you have a cat and someone else in the class has a cat, you could dress the two cats up as Romeo and Juliet, and you could have them reenact the window scene, the balcony scene, and so one cat will meow at the other cat, but they'll meow in poetry and they'll be in love. Like that would be a good way to study. If you've done everything else, you could do this big dress your cats up as Romeo and Juliet. I mean, that might not help you that much to do that, to be honest, but it's something that I would do for fun. Post it on YouTube, a video of yourself with your cat. Just some ideas, but first do all of the real exam prep. Okay, I'm obviously talking nonsense now, and I apologize for that. On Thursday, we'll take up the Moth and the Star. That'll be our last class together. That's very sad, but that's because love and suffering are linked, and so we've had a great class, and then we'll have to be sad and say goodbye. I don't know. I'll see you Thursday. I can't wait to see you all again and finish studying for the exam, and then we'll all have a great summer. Amazing. See you soon.